Constantly shifting through the time-space continuum, Metron's three disciples observe the universe from the Mobius Couch.
If your status ain't hood, I ain't checking for him. You better be street. If you're looking at me, I need a soldier that ain't scared to stand up for me, known to carry big things all the way to the Mobius Couch. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mobius Couch, a time-space interdimensional vehicle from which your three hosts survey the world of comic books, comic book movies, manga. We're international now, all of that. Welcome, the Mobius Couch. We're here. I'm one of your hosts, Alessandro. Joining me as usual are, let's start with Pat. What's up, Patrick? Pat,
What's up?
Patty.
Good song. Good song choice.
Well, because we're about to talk about the Winter Soldier, so I thought I'd talk about DC's. Not District of Columbia, of course, Destiny's Child. Soldier. Just a song about a soldier.
Not Detective Comics.
Not Detective Comics or District of Columbia. Joe is also here. Joe, what's up?
Hey, I'm Joe. Hey, boys.
Hello.
Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Complete collection. We're going to talk about Captain Ed Brubaker's Captain America issues 1 through 9, and then 11 through 14. The complete collection of the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, so
saga.
I have the Omnibus. Definitely has 10, and then it has 15 through 25. So there's a lot more in here.
We're just talking about 1 through 9, and then 11 through 14.
Yeah,
I know what happened to issue 10, but we're not talking about it.
It's House of M.
I mean, I can tell you what happened when we get there in the discussion, but it's unnecessary.
Well, so a little bit of context. This was a big deal. Winter Soldier's a famous character now. They did a
Winter Soldier
MCU. What did I say?
The Winter Soldier. What did I say?
The Winter. Oh, yeah.
I
forgot to pronounce
the Winter.
But the Winter Soldier was, of course, featured in MCU movies. He was briefly the Captain America for a hot minute. Although he had a weird V-shaped costume that made him look like Star-Spangled from the live
You know what?
action
People really hate on that costume. I like that costume.
It's a shit costume, and if you like it, you're a shit person.
Oh, ridiculous.
I'm sorry, but it's aesthetically repugnant.
Aesthetically, I don't understand how he gets into it. You know what I mean? Like
He's got to slide it on from the top, and then
yeah.
But we discussed it. The belt is part of the V.
Yeah.
It doesn't make. Maybe it's just sewn onto
the
him.
The belt's not part of the V at all.
Yeah,
it's just absent in the center.
Okay, we can come back to this later. We're getting off track. The point is, this was the comic that reintroduced the previously deceased Bucky Barnes into Marvel continuity and made him the Winter Soldier, a mysterious anti-hero, spy, thriller type character who was redeemed to the point to where he himself donned Captain America's symbols and shield. Although he also had a gun, which I find problematic, but he was...
after Bucky becomes good, after this whole storyline, before he becomes Captain America, they replace the red star on his arm with like kind of the
rainbow.
Small, it's not the shield, but it's like a white star with like a circle around it. Like that's blue or maybe red. I don't remember.
Oh, like the shield star, but
kind of like the shield star, but they changed it a little bit and there's a circle around it.
Okay.
And I always thought that was really cool. And when they redesigned his Captain America costume, on that note, I was always furious that they covered up his metal arm because it's like one of the coolest parts about Winter Soldier. And I was like, why would you cover up? It's such a cool aspect of that character. It's like really covering up Cable's metal arm, or it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's
definitely the awesome part of the character. So that was the one part of that costume design that I despised. Anyway.
No, definitely. It's definitely not something I couldn't care less about. It's definitely like an important thing that we shouldn't cover up. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about
especially when they got rid of that horrible Russian red star off of it. You know what I mean?
Look at those Ruskies, especially now that Russia is once again our main villain in real life.
Yeah.
After their war in Ukraine. Yeah, we're fighting a proxy war in Ukraine for them as we speak.
I mean, I guess, on Ukraine's side.
Technically and secretly. Yeah, we're definitely involved very closely.
100%, yeah.
So they're definitely like our full-on enemy now.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or
no,
not.
he's being quite serious.
I'm literally
like date the podcast with real politics, Al.
If
this is the timeless episode,
I'm sorry,
but be enjoyed whenever someone reads The Winter Soldier.
If you don't believe there are American servicemen and just tangentially related paramilitary American groups involved with the ground war in Ukraine right now, you are drinking Kool-Aid.
I just like the public, the American public, though, I think is pretty split on.
No, it's not. So there's like basically new age Confederate racist dumbasses who take Russia's side because they buy into Putin's white race supremacy rhetoric.
Let's cut this.
Let's talk about the creative team. So written by, of course,
Ed Brubaker.
Ed Brubaker.
Is it Brubaker?
I like to say Bacher. I like to say Brubaker.
I think it's Brubaker.
It sounds German. Brubaker.
But there would be a CH if it was Bacher.
Ed Brubaker. Let's call him a baker's candlestick maker. Ed Brubaker. This was his peak, like early 2004 to 14 was kind of the peak Brubaker experience. He was coming off of, he finished his DC
peak
run
experience for sure. Yes.
Yeah. But so he finished his DC run with Gotham Central, which is a really cool series if you haven't read it yet, with Greg Rucka.
Maybe we'll read it someday.
Wrapping that up, he jumped ship to Marvel, and I think this was his first. Captain America was his first Marvel property, and he revived the shit out of this character because we talked about the Ultimate print and all that, but like outside of Ultimates, mainstream Captain Avengers was kind of in a nadir of
not a slump. I think it was more of like
disassembled.
Specifically, his comic was in kind of like a just milk toast boring run. That was just,
and it's true because
no one was doing anything interesting with the character.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Avengers Disassembled had already happened, which was kind of like the first crossover where Avengers was like, oh, they're kind of relevant again.
You know, I think it just
Hawkeye had just died in this. They kind of referenced it in the beginning.
Yeah. But in terms of the Captain America comic, it was definitely just sort of treading water, and Brubaker like revived the shit out of it. It became a hot selling comic. He kind of redefined the character. We're going to talk about this a little bit. Very much informed by what was going on with the Ultimate Universe a little bit. Seems like he takes kind of a Miller and Hitch gritty spy thriller like look to it.
But also, so he's a military brat, and he when he was a kid,
grew up in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, a little bit, but like
what? No, all of his youth was in Guantanamo.
No, he was
Bay.
there for like 4 years. Anyway,
that is not true. It's part of his backstory. His origin story
again from his like early childhood. He was there. Anyway,
Gitmo.
Yeah, he was at Gitmo with his father was in the Navy or something like that. Anyway, but he had that like real world kind of experience like around. So I don't know if it's. I know it's definitely Marvel
he was 4 years old in Gitmo. How is that a real experience, Joe?
I don't even have memories. It's not just the only base he was ever at. Military experience in general, just like
they don't tell children.
That lifestyle.
They don't include children in staff meetings on base.
Are you kidding?
Joe.
He was there every time. His father was in intelligence. They let kids into those offices all the time.
He may have been interested in military stuff because of it, but it's not like as a youth he was exposed to like this is what spy thrillers are like, son.
I'm not.
It's not.
What we're saying two different things.
Anyway, he's from Gitmo.
All I'm saying is like I know Marvel was influencing or like saying like we need to make normal comics like the Ultimates and make them good again, kind of thing. Yeah. But that was certainly influenced or putting pressure on him to make it as good as the Ultimates, maybe. But
right. But so this is kind of his first big Marvel comic was this. It was very influential is the wrong. I mean, it was influential, but I'm looking for more.
I don't think it's.
It's just an iconic.
It's less influential. It's iconic. It's iconic.
That's what I meant to say. It was and the art, of course, was by
Steve Epting, and
then who's done a lot with Brubaker. Actually, they've done many successive comics
since this.
Together.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think. What do you guys think about Epting's art?
He's the poor man's Brian Hitch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like hate it or love it. It's just kind of there. It's serviceable, good comic art. It's not
who
like
drew Civil War, by the way. I forgot who did Civil War.
I can't remember.
But he's also a poor man's dad.
Steve McNiven. But this was kind of the style during this time period, because you had Hitch, you had Steve McNiven.
Bendis doing Daredevil at the time, and that was Malieve doing that like gritty, scratchy noir stuff.
Is his name David Finch? Was he doing New Avengers and stuff? I feel like there was a big push of kind of realism in comics, especially Marvel comics.
For sure.
It seemed like.
And I think
100%.
And Hitch on the Ultimates really brought that home. Like the mixing of like realistic looking people and actors like subbing in, like that's where Nick Fury cast as Samuel Jackson even comes from. You know, I know we talked about it on the Ultimates episode we did, but you know,
every time I see
like
white Nick Fury, it's kind of jarring, to be honest.
I know.
Oh, right, he was.
He's a little like,
he's
white.
Kind of crazy.
That's weird.
But it was Civil War was McNiven. But anyway, if Hitch and McNiven had a child, and that child was less talented than them at art, it would be Steve Epting.
And it seems rude.
No, but I mean that. I know it sounds. I don't mean it negatively because I like
and
in this.
I like it too, but like it's not. It's just not like mind blowing. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing. He's not breaking the wheel here or reinventing it. Rather, he's just doing the job, and it's a good job. It's just not like I don't turn the page and go, "Whoa!" I just go, "Yeah, that's a really awesome panel of Captain America jumping onto a moving train. That was great. I loved it."
He doesn't have the eye for detail that Hitch has quite.
No,
he just doesn't quite have that eye for detail.
I will say I read stuff of his like after this, like years after, and he does improve quite a bit.
I agree.
In my opinion. But
I think this was also one of his, if not the earliest, like one of his
early runs,
real comics he was drawing.
Well, so I know that my brain has emptied. Brubaker was looking to him to do this book with, so like he was happy to like get. So Steve had been doing things clearly. So like otherwise, why would he know who he was?
Well, he'd been drawing like fanfic hentai on online sites.
Oh yeah, I mean he'd been doing stuff like that. Yeah, you know what? I think that I think he's great at doing most everything. I think the action scenes, although choreographed well and like camera angle wise, are always shot like quote unquote shot well. Like he has an eye for an angle of the next shot. There's a lot of dynamism between panels, like in terms of like where the camera is positioned. But
so I was going to bring that up.
Seems sort of stale, and I think that's why I like find him kind of like even in the midst of a fight, you're just like, it's just Crossbone's boot coming into frame, and Steve's just like, ugh. You know, like it's not like there's no movement. You don't feel the movement. There's a shot early on where Steve is like jumping onto like an AIM trooper that like is underground or whatever, and it looks like he's just like up in the sewer, like with his, like suspending himself up high like a ninja would, like in the sewers, but really he's leaping through the air. And it just, the way that he's so still, like the way he's drawn, it just feels like he's just holding himself up above the guy, when in reality he's leaping onto him.
I was going to bring up
kind of vibe.
I was going to bring up that same point because a lot of the comics, especially the modern ones we read, artists now are very good at kind of expressing motion within the frame, right? Whether it's speed lines or whatever, it's just they're very dynamic still images, and these basically look like if you took pictures of a film and lined them up on a museum wall. So you can see, if you read the page, you see that there's movement happening.
Yeah, there's motion happening, but
it's frame is just a
frozen
still.
A frozen still. Like the one, like I just changed. I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this. But like in one of the first issues, Captain America's talking to Sharon, and she is like, "Hey, what happened the other day? You went a little crazy on those dudes." And he's just like, "What are you talking about? It was normal." And she's like, "You almost downed a helicopter in the city." And he's like, "No, it hit the river," or that kind of thing. But it's just a still image of like, and the birds are frozen in flight, kind of thing. And that's how he shows movement. It's just like these photographic frozen images.
A good example is when Crossbones is fighting Cap in a part. Maybe we'll talk about later. But again, look at these frames are just completely still. Like,
yeah, and there's like
frozen,
and clearly the bike
images.
is flipping through the air. The motorcycle is flipping through the air, but at the same time, it's just held in like motionless. Like there's no like gravel or anything flying off of the bike or something to indicate that it's like flipped past him or something. It's just hanging in the air behind Crossbones.
But I'm glad we brought this up because I was going to mention this, but
that being said, again, I don't dislike the art. It's again,
but
very
I was going to bring up that
good
method. But no, I was going to bring up though, that is an aspect of his style that I liked. I kind of liked that method of like still image.
Yeah.
But together, displaying movement like as a group, even though the images themselves are.
Yeah, I think the most motion
like
there ever really is like when Cap throws his shield, every once in a while there'll be like the trail lines of like where it
of it bouncing.
Like every once in a while. But other than that, it's just like frozen kind of image.
2 points. Joe, back to your point about Cap holding himself up in the sewer. That's what I thought he was doing, and I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, he's leaping through the air. It looks like he's just hanging there. Like it's a very I don't know. You have to see the image for it to really make sense, but like it really does feel like it's not. There's no motion happening. It just feels like he's just there.
He looks like he's Batman style or Ninja Turtle style, like above them, and Also, one of my biggest gripes about this was that his shield. I never knew where it was going, how it was getting back to him because of the movement thing. I'm like, is he Magneto? Is he just summoning the shield? He's like Thor, like bringing the shield. Like it made no sense to me in a lot of especially the last issue. The last issue, that shield, if you follow it, it makes no sense about where. There's one point where it's like stuck in a tree, and then all of a sudden it's bouncing back to him. I don't know. It was just, But overall, the art's good. I agree. I agree with you that it's good, but there is I think we've berated the fact that his ability to draw motion is not quite.
And it's not.
Yet.
It's clearly it's a choice. Like Al was saying, I feel like it's a choice.
I think it's a conscious style. Right. It's a stylistic decision. I think. To me, he probably would be able to draw more dynamic scenes. I think it's just his style decision was to do that.
Maybe.
I just feel like I mean
I don't know.
I haven't read anything Epting's done in a long while, like since this. So and again, as Patrick was saying, like he improves with more recent stuff, but just the slightest bit of like motion or not speed lines per se, but just like a little bit of line work to like show that something is happening would be a little more interesting, I guess. It would break up
but
his
I do again
though.
I just thought it was kind of interesting. I didn't mind that just that strategy. Basically, every frame is a still picture. It is just a picture. Like there's no actual movement within the frame. I thought it was interesting because again, it's pretty different from a lot of modern comic style. So I thought it was sort of refreshing in that sense. Okay, but that's the creative team.
Yeah.
That's a great team.
So the overall arc and plot of the book, real quick, is clearly Bucky Barnes has been dead and had previously been dead forever. And there had literally been like arguments and talks to bringing Bucky back, and also Jason Todd Robin came back around the same time. Weirdly, it's like they kind of mirror each other. It's really,
they were both, but in both cases, it was Superboy slamming against the mirror walls of reality. That brought them both back, actually.
The key here is that, it's done in a way in this that's not ridiculous. It's really well done. But it was one of the things that he wanted to do when he came on the book. He's like, I'd love to do Captain America, but here's my pitch. I want to bring Bucky back. And I think, within Marvel editorial, they had been talking about this, off and on for probably every creator that ever comes on to Captain America. But for whatever reason, they were like, I like that pitch. Let's go with this story. Or maybe the time was right, or or maybe DC was bringing back Robin, so they decided to do it. But in terms of comics, like at this point in time, like there was death never really means much in comic books, as we've probably talked about many, many times. But like Bucky being dead and Jason Todd being dead were like for years and years and years, like had been like basically 20 years of comic books had been like locked in stone, and they never would go back on that.
Flash Barry too was dead for a long time.
I mean, he was, but it wasn't like it wasn't in such a way that like it wasn't like an understood thing that he wasn't allowed to come back, kind of thing. Like it was with Bucky and Jason Todd, it was always like, this is a thing that we will not go back on.
It's hard to
when they finally both decided to do it.
Face is hard to come back from.
Yeah. This story, I guess we can kind of get into overall takes. I really loved this story, the way it was done, and the way that they brought Bucky back, where you weren't quite sure if it was him right away. Like there was a lot of like red herrings in terms of like, oh, that guy used to be Bucky in the 50s, or this guy, like that kind of thing was happening. And then you don't even really see him until like issue 9 or so. I mean, like you kind of see him, but not really. And even then you're like, it could still end up to not be him. Like, we don't know. Like, so until that, like 1 through 9 is kind of building up that mystery of like, who is this Winter Soldier guy? And then 11 through 14 is kind of like, oh, okay, it's Bucky. Let's figure this shit out.
Yeah. And I actually,
it's a really great build up. I felt to that story. Or to like the reveal that it is actually Bucky. This isn't just them fucking with the reader or the audience, kind of thing. Like, it's not going to turn out to be a robot, like it is Bucky. This is happening. And the way that they did it was awesome. Like he never, the one issue where Steve reads his file and like it tells you about what's going on, or like from like a military, file on the Winter Soldier kind of aspect of it, is awesome. It's like one of my favorite issues. But the fact that he was like flash frozen when he hit the icy water, so like it kind of like preserved him in this weird way that should not have like normally happened, and like that's why they could revive him, and they were like doubting that he was even going to be revived, and then they were like testing him for super soldier serum and all this stuff, and it was awesome. And I just like the slow buildup of how they got him to come back, and they made it done in such a realistic way that was like relatively plausible. I love the fact that they like froze him, and he was like, that's why he hasn't aged, because it was just like they would only bring him out when they needed him to kill somebody or do something, kind of thing. That's brilliant. Like, so many good aspects of the story. But overall takes for me, I really like this book. It's not like my favorite. I'll throw down anybody that says they don't like it or anything, but it's a really good book, and I thought it was solidly done. I mean, I do own the omnibus for a reason, but like Ed Brubaker on Cap was just crushing it. I think he did a really great job, and handling Bucky and bringing him back couldn't have been done like in a more not eloquent, but like rational way. Like just very bare bones. Like, we're not fucking around. This is how it is. Like, I thought they did a good job. Yeah.
All right. I'll go next because let's just save Patrick for last, because I think he's going to have a divergent
a different take. Yeah.
So I'd never read this at the time. This was the first time I've read this.
Oh, okay.
And but I got to say, I love it. It's just classic Brubaker, like good kind of thriller, mystery elements. All right. So I'll say pacing wasn't perfect. And part of it is also, this wasn't, a tight 6-issue arc or anything. It was just kind of a monthly comic, spread out through 15 issues. I think the pacing could have been a little bit better. Especially, I preferred in the Winter Soldier movie how they revealed Bucky kind of like in the middle they met, and then at the end I thought that pacing worked a little bit better rather than in the comic. Like, I would have liked a little bit more interplay between Cap and Bucky before the very end. In the comic,
they really only have that one run-in after the Philadelphia.
And honestly, the first real scene we have of Winter Soldier is just bizarrely like him talking to General Lucan about carrying a cube randomly, and it's just weird that that's the first extensive exposure we have to this character, is just this kind of throwaway scene where he's talking to his boss. It's just kind of anticlimactic way to get a closer. I feel like that aspect of it could have been handled a little bit better. Having said that,
that's very fair. Yeah.
But having said that, I liked the spy thriller elements overall. the final kind of confrontation between Winter Soldier and Cap was satisfying. Liked all of that. I will say part of that is maybe, and I don't know, maybe this is a reason why Patrick didn't like it as much. I found that in my old age, I've found a sort of nostalgic appeal. I don't know how to describe them, but kind of Tom Clancy style political thrillers.
Okay.
Because that's a genre that when we were kids was sort of like a very prevalent.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's really Brubaker taps into a lot of that kind of political thriller, 90s style political thriller element of just sort of, and I know this isn't whatever, not to try to get canceled or anything, but it's just kind of like men are men being spies and soldiers, or Jack Reacher on Amazon, for example. Like I find nostalgic pleasure in that kind of property that harkens back to like that era, like early 90s, Harrison Ford. Boy, we have to bring up Jack Reacher and everything. But early 90s, like Harrison Ford, Tom Clancy stuff. Like this is, there's a lot of that in this comic. And I find
there's a lot of old school Harrison Ford.
Yeah, and I just find a lot of nostalgic joy in that. So I think a lot of the reason why I enjoyed this is that kind of touchstone I had with it. But I enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, very fair.
Page turner, good action. It has some pacing issues, but it wasn't designed to be a graphic novel.
It does have pacing issues, but I really did enjoy. That's
comic.
True. It was
a recurring comic, so it has some of that in there. But that's my
for a monthly book. I feel like the pacing was good in the sense that like I said, I liked the slow build to like not revealing him for a while. Like it kept you like kind of going like, is this actually Bucky or not? Like as a reader, with this coming out month to month, and I know you didn't read it back then, but for me, I was like, is this fucking Bucky or not? Like I need to know. Like this is killing me, kind of thing. Like they really drug you on as a reader, like wanting to get the next issue and see how much more of the mystery they would kind of like little tidbits here and there.
No, I get that, but I mean, reading this.
Yeah, reading it through, later, you're right. It could have been more
all
of
together.
Like
the
pacing bridge scene
kind of show through. Yeah,
in Winter Soldier the film, like it's fantastic. It's just fantastic. Like their first fight. And they do they have that moment-ish in this where in the Philadelphia explosion, and he's like,
it's just 2 seconds. Like he sees him,
and he's like, who the fuck is Bucky? Like he's like, Bucky, is that you? Or like kind of thing. And he's like, who the hell's Bucky? kind of thing. They do that, but like, you're right. It was done better in the film because it was more of a fight. And there was more of a reveal.
Okay.
But, anyway, Patrick.
All right, Patrick. Yeah. Go. Yeah. Your turn.
Okay. So, I did not read. This is my first time reading this, so I did not read this when it was coming out. So, Joe, I think for you that experience is different because I'm reading it on the Marvel Unlimited app, and the very first issue, the summary is basically like, Bucky Barnes is back. Captain America's old, so you know right away it's Bucky.
Well,
so
you've also known that he's back.
Also
anyway.
known. Yeah. Winter Soldier is my favorite MCU movie. I love that movie more than any 100% MCU movie. So it's natural to compare that to this. And I, in my opinion, thought that movie is superior to this comic book. Sharon Carter, I have a lot of points. Sharon Carter, could not stand her. I could not stand her. I don't understand what she offered to the story. She didn't do anything. She's
a sexy lamppost.
She's Steve's love interest.
But
we'll get to the test later. She's a sexy lamppost.
There was zero chemistry. Zero chemistry between them. Steve seemed annoyed by her. She seemed annoyed by Steve. Even like her motivation to want to kill Bucky was because Bucky killed her boyfriend, who she sounds like she basically ghosted that guy. So like, why do you give a fuck anyways? But let me back up.
He broke up with her.
Okay, let's get into this later. So first of all, if you ghost someone, it doesn't mean you want them to die. That's not.
Well, yeah, but it also doesn't mean you're going to claim vengeance over. And even their conversation, she's like, all that's left of him is the killer. And Cap's like, no. If you read the file, like obviously Bucky is still in there. He's tried to escape like multiple times.
Did he have the file at that point?
Yeah, he's talking to her. He's like,
this was post-file discussion.
It's like, Sharon, you're one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s top agents, and you're not picking up on this. Anticlimactic. It was anticlimactic. The end, when they finally meet, it's like nothing. It's like, it could have been any random supervillain he's fighting. then he gets the cosmic cube to restore Bucky's memories, and there's like one brief moment where Bucky's like, just kill me. That was like the only emotional beat, and then Bucky runs away. There was nothing there. Bucky
but Patrick,
one thing I did like,
I just mean to say, like, straight het, like, white cool dudes don't have emotions. So what is it to talk about? Oh my God. You just fight, and then that's it. We don't have emotions to discuss.
You just, Patty, you just come into town on a Greyhound bus, and you do your job, and you leave.
So overall, I didn't enjoy it as much as the movie. The things I did enjoy. I enjoyed the idea that Bucky was the teenage sidekick to Captain America. However, Bucky was trained to do the nasty shit that Cap
that's the part I loved.
Right?
Them so making that's an aspect of this that I feel like is slept on, because like a lot of people
they should have highlighted that shit when they did the flashbacks. I did not want to see them fighting Nazis. I wanted to see Bucky, killing Nazis, but like in a really terrible way. Like to train how old was he? Like 15, 16? He was a teenager. You've got the super soldier Captain
he was
America.
16. Yeah.
But you don't want to get his hands dirty. So you train this 16-year-old who is very much like the Robin of the 1960s or whatever, being like, gosh golly, let's go do this. But in behind the scenes, he's like stabbing people in the neck and like having like
he was like a black ops murderer.
Yes, I wanted and that was something different from the MCU.
The funny part is like the idea is like the Russians turned him into some sort of assassin, but in reality, that's what he was.
That's
what he was. This comic has all these flashbacks where you just see a little boy like slit dudes' throats in the snow, and you're just like, okay, I guess the Russians didn't do that.
Yeah,
I mean, he might have been like, depending on when it was in the war, he might have been 18.
Well, okay. I mean,
and I enjoyed the history of learning about the other guys that took up the Captain America mantle when Cap was frozen.
I hate everything about convoluted comic canon, and that's
they were cleaning it up. They were cleaning it up.
Yeah, they cleaned it up.
There were comics.
But that's what I mean. Just forget it. I hate all at like every comic that tries to square that circle of cleaning up the convoluted nonsense canon.
No, I loved it. The fact that the country of America was like, we need a Captain America. Let's just throw this fucking mask on any guy we've got, and it's not always Steve Rogers. The Nomad character was he was very interesting, actually. The fact that he was a lunatic
so Jack. That's what issue 10 is, by the way. So like, Bucky kills Jack and uses his body as this is who was doing the killing.
He does that in the Philadelphia bombing. I mean, that's early.
Yeah, in the Philadelphia bombing. He uses his body to be like, that's the guy, or whatever, but the fuck. I guess that was the motivation, but they all like knew right away. So I was like, that doesn't. Anyway, the point is he kills this guy that was Bucky in the 50s. And all issue 10 is that guy losing his fucking mind.
Yeah.
And beating the shit out of people like in the streets and thinking it's like a drug cartel, and really it's just like civilians. He's just losing it. And then at the end he sees Bucky and right before he gets shot, and he's like been imagining Bucky has been like talking to him this whole time, kind of going like, you're not good enough, you're not really Bucky, like you've never that kind of thing happening in his mind. And at the end, before Winter Soldier murders him, he just sees Bucky. And I was just like, I kind of love that. And I understand why it's not like an issue included in this like clean run, but like,
no, it is. It's issue 7.
No, issue 10 is he dies. I'm just
saying
he
Lonesome
doesn't.
Death of Jack Monroe is issue 7.
Oh, is that in it? So what issue did get dropped?
Issue 10.
It was the house. It was the issue house. It was the House of M issue when it's the House of M.
So all of that's in there then. Oh, okay. Oh, so maybe it was skipped in this too.
I'm going to be honest though. Issue 7 is right. What you described, the Lonesome Death of Jack Monroe. I skipped that issue.
I mean, it's a very skippable issue.
I thought it was
because why do I give a shit? Like Jack Monroe already died.
Read that one. So it was You're right. It was
misdirect. He's just some dead misdirect MacGuffin. I don't want to read his backstory.
I guess you didn't know about him in the 90s when he was a nomad. I was kind of relatively not.
I had no context.
Him losing his shit. Oh, so this whole time I thought that was the issue that they dropped from the books. But
I love when they take like relatively obscure 90s and 80s characters and give them kind of an updated story to see what they've been up to. Like,
Patrick, we're different people because that's one of the things I can't stand about comics. Is when
I love this is a total tangent, but like the second volume of Runaways, when it's like the older group of people who used to be heroes.
When the old Avengers West or whatever. Okay, that was kind of interesting. Dark Star or whatever. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I like seeing that stuff. I guess my point is, if I had read this for the first time, never seen the MCU movie, all that stuff, I probably would have.
Yeah, because the MCU movie didn't exist for me at the time. So seeing Bucky murder people, I was like, yes, more of this. This is fantastic. What a great retcon. What a fucking fantastic idea. Like, what a great way to like justify this ludicrous idea that Captain America would have a sidekick in fucking World War II. It makes no sense. So when they do that in this book, I'm like, that is so good. I love that like weird, and it makes so much sense because they would have totally done that shit.
It wasn't in the file. It wasn't in the file, but do you think he killed JFK? Because it wasn't in the file.
I think they've talked about that.
They talked about how they saved JFK to become president, but he could have, easily. He could have been the one that killed
Unless
JFK.
Marvel is trying to tell us that it really was the CIA. Because they're like, not even the Winter Soldier.
That's probably what it is,
Maybe Marvel's trying to tell us something.
But I just overall take, I have mixed feelings about it. Maybe if I read it for the first time when it first came out, I feel differently. But because it's become such a mainstream story, I think the way the MCU handled it was more fun. I think a big part of it, though, was like, I just couldn't. The chemistry with Sharon Carter and Captain America was like very central to the story, and I just could not give a shit about her. And I thought the chemistry between
I felt like Natasha she spent the entire book kind of going like, "How you doing, Steve? Are you okay? Like you seem like you're losing." And he's like, "I'm fine." And that was it.
Also,
that was pretty much their relationship.
I needed to see her. She kept talking about how she's one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s top field agents, and I feel like she didn't do
a slow track.
Damn thing.
Yeah, Patrick, it's a slow
track.
It's the U.S. government. Who are they going to hire, man?
Also, the one thing she did do was go investigate Jack's disappearance or whatever,
and all she did was
she got clocked by Winter Soldier, and
Yeah. All right, let's just do it.
Literally put out as damsel in distress bait.
Let's just do this now. Does this pass?
She might as well have been tied to
the Bechdel test. The Bechdel test. Does this pass the Bechdel test? The
answer is probably no.
So this one doesn't, and it also as we just discussed, I don't think it passes the sexy lamppost test. She's basically a hot blonde girl who's around. And that's all she contributes. Like it's basically a lamppost. And Joe, you just made the point. Like she could have been tied to railroad tracks while Bucky's twirling his mustache. I mean,
he might as well have just been like, ha ha ha, like while Captain America like parachuted down, he's like saving her, and then he's like, I'm gonna set this bomb off now.
Multiple times they go out of their way to let you know that she and Cap fucked in the past, just to let you know she's only there because they were had a relationship.
She's like handler?
Yeah, but then later, to Patrick's point, once her ex or current,
because Cap in this is not,
But again, her only motivation in the second half of the book is to avenge her ex who died. Like she's got no agency really outside of just being a chick tied to men. In this, but like this fails all tests.
And then I hate to like. I guess one of my last overall take points was I enjoyed when the Falcon showed up because the Falcon.
I love that. I love that when he comes into the rooftop and Cap's. I forgot the exact wording, but he's just like, "I heard you needed a bro, and I'm here." I was just like, "Thank you."
And then also, in all seriousness, the next issue picks up with them having a conversation at Cap's place, and he's like,
"Because Falcon's a true bro."
Yeah, he's like, he's like, "I know you're conflicted, and I understand what's going on." But what do you want to do?
Yes,
like, I want to save him. And he's like, but then let's figure out how to do that. And I was like, bravo, dude. Like he's been struggling with this for like 10 issues at that point, like kind of like not understanding what's happening and conflicted with the idea that it even is Bucky. Like at first he's like refusing to believe it's Bucky at all. Like he's like, there's no fucking way.
Yeah.
You know, and then he's like, it's got to be a trick. It's Red Skull. It's Cosmic Cube. It's fucking bullshit. And then finally, when he's like confronted with the fact that, you know, the Philadelphia bombing thing happens, and then, you know,
in my opinion, that was the best beat in the entire, what was this, 14 issues, 12 issues? Because everyone is telling Cap that he has to kill Bucky.
Where's my Falcon picture? Oh, here we go. I got Falcon in here somewhere.
Yeah, my main note I have for this whole run, my main note is like, I just smiled the minute Falcon arrived on scene.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Yeah, I mean, and he was great. He was great. And also, and the issue after that, it's like a classic, like, hey, Iron Man, Falcon, let's go on a little mission. But their goal is to find somebody that will help them track the Cosmic Cube, because they realize that that's the one thing that's getting them, that will get Cap to where Winter Soldier is before Winter Soldier does something horrible.
But that's that's just the comic we have is only really concerned with Captain America, his emotional struggle, I get, which he gets through just by punching things until they stop being problematic.
Well, that's what he was very ultimate.
That's the only conflict that this book is concerned with. And you know, one thing I just want to mention, because we haven't brought it up yet, aesthetically, physically, Captain America, and I know this, Epting couldn't have predicted this, but he looks like an aged down Mike Pence. And I find that really problematic. He looks like he's got these beady little Mike Pence eyes and the same haircut. And it just looks like if you aged Mike Pence down 30 years.
Yeah.
Why and when did the scaly armor thing happen? I never liked that for Captain America. Like, he's got scales.
I never understood. Yeah. Why does he have scales? Like,
I never got
Aquaman
why
scales, but
I don't. I mean, that's just the way it was like classically drawn.
I know, but like, do we know why that was the original design? It just seems weird to me that he would have.
I think it's just like knight in shining armor type ideal, like, you know, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, but going back to our alt, because I know we haven't.
I like how they did it in like the MCU in different variations, but there was one specifically where like it was kind of like more like a diamond pattern on his armor, and I was like, that's kind of cool. Well, it's done well. It's done well at times. Like this is one of those comics where like I felt like they finally drew, although this is not Ultimate Cap, which I feel like is a far superior design for a Cap costume. Still the classic Cap costume, but they did it in a way that like made a little bit more sense realistically. Like it, you know, it looked like it was an actual shirt he put on. You know, it wasn't just like I'm wearing tights with fucking fish armor.
Yeah, fish scales won't make sense under any context. So I think you're wrong, but. Going back to the thing
made it look okay, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, what's weird to me is not growing up, but like a lot of my comic consumption was more centered on Ultimate Marvel than mainstream Marvel. Plus MCU, it's just jarring to see Cap without a helmet, but like a cowl, you know, just a little soft cowl thing and scales. It just seems
it's also drawn
so out of time
in a lot of ways. Yeah,
but it is
Epting
a soft
draws
cowl.
It more
he pulls it back. It's definitely
it's definitely soft, but like the way there's one image, like definitely
and the literal wings, like the actual
the actual wings,
wings standing. It's just a weird costume. It's just jarring to see that again.
And the pirate boots and gloves, like it's the whole thing's silly. That's why like when Ultimates came around, I was like, bravo, like way to take that costume and make it military and actually make it matter. And you know, like he had Captain Barr's symbols on his shoulders, and I think they quickly changed that to stars even in the Ultimates, but still, like he had like a little extra detailings here and there, and like his gloves and boots were real boots and not like pirate boots, you know, kind of like he's definitely wearing like the equivalent of the Robin costume with short shorts and pixie boots, you know, like it's weird. He's the grown-up version of Robin. You know what I mean?
According to comic book resources, the original design was based off of like actual knight armor. So,
yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, like knight in shining armor. Yeah.
That's good.
Scale mail. Yeah,
that's good.
So that's where that comes from. But that's good. I agree. It is weird to carry that into the current day.
Scale mail, by the way, I think is
if that was his costume in World War II.
Like AC-20, I think that's pretty good.
If that was his costume in World War II, as like a political like icon, you're like, okay, I get it. The second you thaw him out of the ice, like it seems a little silly that he's still wearing that. You know what I mean? Like it's like, what are you doing? I guess let's talk about the overall plot.
Oh, I was wrong.
We haven't really mentioned anything that happened.
I just want to correct myself. Scale mail is a 14 plus dex modifier to
Oh yeah, that's very important. I'm glad you
I think plate mail is maybe 18 or 20.
One other thing I struggled with this storyline, and this is true for me with any spy thriller, like any Mission Impossible movie. I never understood how they figured out. Don't talk bad about Mission
Impossible. We're gonna have words.
I never understood how they figured out where to go. Like, there's one scene where Cap invades, like one of the Red Skull's lairs, and Crossbones is there, and Crossbones is like, "How the fuck did Captain America find us?" And I was like, "I don't know. I had the same question. How did he know you guys were here?" Like, it was one of those things where I'm like, I'm not paying attention enough to know where the clues are coming from that are leading y'all.
Well, let's talk about on that number one rule of spy thrillers: don't think about it.
Intelligence.
That's not true. Just don't be silly. I have to say, this plot is relatively well thought out. I think in terms of how they go places and figure out shit. Even to the point where like the Tony Stark episode or issue with like Falcon, their whole point is let's find somebody that can help us track the Cosmic Cube because then we can get to the Winter Soldier. Like that's the whole point of that issue. Even though it's just like a flashbang classic, it's a little mini Avengers team up issue. It's ultimately so they can get somebody that will help them lead them to the Cosmic Cube, which would lead them to Bucky.
Once Tony's there, I get it. It's like, oh well, Tony's a super genius with like supercomputers. But like in that second issue, I think him and Sharon go after the Red Skull dies.
So basically, that's what I was saying. Let's talk about the plot. So the basic plot is the Red Skull is murdered, and he has been trying to like repower the Cosmic Cube via massive death, basically. The reason Cap and Sharon know where to go, and there's 3 bombs. One's in Manhattan, or one's in New York, rather. And one's in Paris and one's in London. So the reason they find the one with Crossbones so quickly is because it's like directly tied to like the little scientific machine that he had to power the cube.
Oh yeah.
So they traced it immediately, and they were like able to like immediately find the one that's close by. That left the other 2. So when they get to the other 2, one of the main things that happens is that one of the bombs is taken because that team, after Red Skull's death, and he didn't report in and like tell them to blow it up or whatever, that team like abandoned the bomb. So like another group of bad guys grabbed the bomb, kind of thing. So like it was like another. So that's what that is the bomb that eventually blew up Philadelphia. You know, so like basically it's like they have 3 bombs that are going to power the cube. They stopped the Manhattan one immediately. They have a team of soldiers with Union Jack go in and stop the London bomb while they're simultaneously going after the Paris bomb. And basically when they get there, the Paris bomb has already been like absconded with because the team that Red Skull had in place like dispersed.
Yeah. I think it's more with my brain with this. Well, that's where I kind of go with, even with, like I said, like Mission Impossible movies, any kind of spy thriller.
Well, it's also just like if there's a cosmic cube and there's energy tracing back to 3 separate points. It's very like, but I mean, like they do spell it out. Like it's not.
Also, cosmic cubes. There's more than one cosmic cube apparently, and you can make.
Yeah, the cosmic cube is very different in the Marvel Comics versus the MCU. Like
the
where
MCU,
it was like
it's basically
it was one of the Infinity Stones. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So it was very different in the MCU. So like a lot of the cosmic cube is like insanely powerful. Like it's insane. Like you can literally just rewrite reality. Like the guy's using it to like later on take over like corporations, like by making them sign documents they didn't want to sign. And I was just like, you could literally just like own the companies. Like I don't
well, I did think it was interesting.
Well, maybe it's like less energy expended.
It's not. It doesn't have. Yeah, it doesn't have.
Also,
like,
can we
power.
talk about later? So Tony Stark, I want to talk about his value to shareholders as CEO. Because
Are you talking about the throwaway line? Like he can't go help them on the last thing,
right? But he mentions that they offered an insane amount for his company, and any publicly traded company CEO would be basically beholden to the stockholder to sell at that value. I mean.
Yeah, he said he had to like it was a corporate takeover, and he had to like personally like get certain people to stop that from happening.
Yeah, but that's irresponsible behavior. Like you have a duty to the shareholder. If your company's worth $5 billion and somebody says I'll buy it for 20, you cannot turn that deal down. You have a responsibility to shareholder to sell at that higher valuation. Well, I don't know if Stark is publicly traded or not, but I have real questions about how he's CEOing that company.
Not well, apparently. They almost fired him.
I have real problems with that. Also,
that was clearly like let's have Iron Man guest star for like one issue, but like
1,000,000%. I mean, 1,000,000%.
Well, that was genuine story arc that was happening within his comic at the time.
Yeah.
That being said, it was just kind of like, sorry guys, I can't go with you. And even in the fucking plane on the way to fight Bucky, I loved how Falcon was like, yeah, it's kind of bullshit Tony's not here. And he's like, Tony has responsibilities and blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, but none of that's fucking gonna matter if he powers this cosmic cube. Like, kind of like if this was an MCU movie, it's basically like Tony being like, hey, sorry guys, I gotta go do this corporate board meeting instead of going to this big fight with the aliens. And then he's like, your board meeting's not gonna matter if we lose to the aliens. Like, you've got to come do this. And
it's kind of like if the first 10 minutes of Endgame, instead of building a time machine, Tony was like, well, I got to go play golf with this.
I've got a golf meeting and I got to go.
Can't do it.
It's kind of like in Sailor Moon, how Sailor Mercury used to always skip out on the fights because she had to study for big exams. And you're like,
but that was important, Patrick. Grades are important.
Exams are important. I guess. That's her future, Patrick. That's her future.
But I mean, if the Negaverse takes over, whatever, different genre. I'm just saying.
Well, you've got to take care of yourself.
Although going back to Iron Man, I did appreciate at least like acknowledging like, oh, this is why my best superpowered friend isn't here helping me with this situation.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It was good.
Yeah, what was Thor and the Hulk's excuse? And
the Avengers had been disbanded, bro.
Yeah.
It'd be great if instead he showed up and he's like, well, the only Avenger who could help me was Scarlet Witch. And Falcon's like, no, do not. She's only going to make shit worse.
Kill her.
My Tony images are.
The cosmic cube's like, don't you remember your fake kids? And then reality gets rewritten and everybody dies. Scarlet Witch is like, oops. Did it again. All right. What should we hit on net? We already did. Let's talk about Snyder Zeus. Anyone on the? I mean, we already mentioned that Cap looks like Mike Pence, but you don't really get to see his body very much.
Yeah, he's never shirtless. So it's hard to judge. Epting in a drawing in quote unquote realistic way, even though they're superheroes in tights, they're not very ripped. They're kind of like real looking humans. I mean, I think Cap is big, but I don't think he's like cut from marble. You know what I mean?
We can't know. All we can do is it's just conjecture.
Like we get a little bit of a teenage boy Bucky in a tank top, but like nothing going on really. Muscle wise.
And there shouldn't be. We can't sexualize a teenage boy.
You can't. Well, you can't see muscle under scale mail either. Like it's just going to be a big, blocky person. I mean, he's clearly built, but I don't know if he's ripped.
I just don't think there's really anything that registers on the Snyder.
Every time he's in his apartment, he's wearing a big baggy white.
Look at how baggy that shirt is. Yeah, look at how baggy his shirt is. You can't tell.
I love that we hit on the same thing at the exact same time. It's just a big baggy t-shirt. He's a t-shirt wearing guy. What do you guys think about? Let's just talk about Bucky for a while. What do you guys think about like what he's going through? Like what happened to him? Like do you love the flashback file issue as much as I do? Because I loved that issue.
I wish you had been.
Do you have an emotional connection with when he remembers who he is? Like, are you guys feeling the same thing?
The Bucky part emotionally hit 0% with me because he's in 5 total minutes of a 15-issue arc. And
I get this is the time period where Red Hood was happening. So it's like, is it Jason Todd? Is it not Jason Todd? And I do feel like they are competing with each other. But I think if they, story-wise, for it to hold up in the future, I get at the time, if you're reading it issue by issue back in 2004, is it Bucky? Is it not Bucky? That's exciting. But I think if they just established from issue one, like, this is Bucky, and we're going to focus on what the fuck Bucky went through for the last, I think it would have held up better as a story. Because what, again, like, learning that the American government was like, we're going to train this 16-year-old boy to carry out our assassinations.
Like that Captain one shot of him crawling under barbed wire and like sneaking into a town to like murder people so they could then come in and be like, we're doing it for the cameras. You know, like that was fucking chilling.
And maybe I'm misremembering it, but I'm pretty sure Captain America knew that was Bucky's role. Was Bucky was doing these covert?
Oh, he absolutely knew.
I think he knew.
So like that adds another layer to Captain America as well. Where I do kind of wish the flashbacks were more focused on Bucky and Bucky's perspective and what Bucky was
a little less than Cap's.
Less than Cap. But I get
a lot of the flashbacks was quote unquote Red Skull like fucking with Cap via the cosmic cube, you know, kind of thing, and just like
also
forcing memories into his head and kind of thing, and like fucking his fight up with Crossbones, so to speak. So like that was what was happening. So he was like having these like jarring flashbacks.
Cap mentions like, wait, these aren't my memories, or what's
there's a few where like Bucky dies in his memories, and he's like, that's not what happened. Bucky didn't die there, and like it kind of sent him off on another trail. Basically, Red Skull was like not wanting to just, I need to kill Captain America. You know, he really wants him to suffer. So like by suffering, he's like showing Bucky die over time, like in multiple flashbacks that aren't real, you know, like culminating in like the flashback of him like actually dying, you know, kind of thing. And to the point where Cap is like fighting at that same castle in like, you know, the English Channel or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, and
kind of going like, oh shit, these people aren't here, but they were so real like a second ago, you know, kind of thing.
But Joe, to your point about the Winter Soldier character, I think going back to how the movie did this, I think a more effective way to have the reader connect would be they just should have interacted more. Like, for example, at the end of Act 1, they meet each other. Like Cap first sees him, oh my God. End of Act 2, maybe Cap's trying to stop an assassination, but he doesn't quite get there in time. And the Winter Soldier wins that battle, right? And then Act 3 is their final confrontation. Like it should have been a more kind of periodic clash of like just interaction between those two characters.
Yeah.
But we just
as Patrick said earlier, I think the film did a better job. I mean, obviously they distilled it for the MCU.
Yeah.
But also they distilled it for one movie. That being said, they took what was here as a like the bulk of a story and made it make way more sense. And the setup from the first Avenger Captain America movie with Bucky being an actual character that you kind of gave a shit about at least mattered more in the second film when they brought him back, you know, kind of thing.
Also, I liked
the emotional resonance. You're right; it's not quite there because Bucky's been absent from comics since like the fucking 50s. You know?
Yeah, we just needed more. We just needed more exposure to him in this comic. I also didn't like. I liked in the movie how.
I think that's why I like the File issue so much, though, Al. I think because it shows what he went through and like the horrifying shit they fucked him up with.
Yeah, but that's not a substitute for actual character.
No, it's not. It's not. Right. But the downloading, it's too brunt and it's too like they granted it's literally a full issue of Cap reading a file, but like. Downloading that much information in like one issue versus like giving it to us piecemeal through genuine interactions probably would have been better. But I just loved that issue for what it was because of like what it is, you know, like because you're like finally getting to find out like what happened to him when he fell into the ice, you know, kind of thing.
I liked the brainwashing in the movie. Yeah. Well, I like the brainwashing in the movie more because I like the wrinkle where he had weird passwords of like microwave, Fandango, Cunnilingus, you know, reverse cowgirl that he's like, oh, I'll kill. Yeah. But in this one, they're just kind of like, you wake up and go kill. I like the kind of code word because it's
the
like
Baron
real,
Zemo, like slowly reading the words out, and he's like resisting was
ingraining.
fantastic.
Yeah. I thought that was a cool.
I do love that in the file issue, they eventually just like he's too I don't know, resistant, and he's starting to break away from us, so let's just shut this down and put him in a crate and just put him in a warehouse.
They put him in like a Raiders of the Lost Ark warehouse.
Like, and I'm just like, I love that. I also sort of loved.
I did like that that one time period where he, at the end of his mission, he went AWOL and just kind of wandered America, like searching for.
It was great.
I thought that was kind of a cool little.
And then I think was he not allowed to do missions in America anymore after that?
Yeah, they were like, let's not let him go to America again, because he'll just like weirdly revert and not know what he's doing.
It was too triggering, I guess, for his past.
Yeah.
But it's true. I do like how at the end they just stick him in the Raiders of the Lost Ark warehouse, like in a corner. And that's
it. So the main quote unquote villain. So Red Skull dies in the first issue. Like, he gets shot through the chest. So the main villain is this like CEO of this corporation,
Lucan. General Lucan.
And so it's essentially like the last remnants of like old school Russian military, like Mother Russia, kind of. And he was raised basically by like, I wouldn't say zealot, but like a very old school Russian in terms of like, this is what it means to be a Russian and our countryman kind of thing. That as a villain I kind of enjoyed. So like, it was kind of an interesting, like it's Red Skull. You find out like when Red Skull was dying or got shot through the chest, he was holding the cosmic cube. So he kind of like, so essentially he transferred his consciousness into this dude.
Yeah, but
there wasn't enough energy in the cosmic cube to like fully take over that guy's mind. So it's just this dude slowly going crazy.
It's great. It's like it's Willem Dafoe Green Goblin. Yeah,
basically, yes. And I sort of love that.
Because I don't know if in the successive issues it becomes clear, but was the body taking over? Like, was that always Red Skull's plan, or was it like his pivot when he realized, oh, I'm being assassinated?
I think it's a pivot.
It's a pivot. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if like from the beginning it was his plan to leave his disfigured body and take over.
I thought that was just a consequence of the cosmic cube. Like, I thought.
Oh, it wasn't even conscious. Okay, so you're saying
I think it's conscious. Conscious. I think he purposefully did that. Basically like as a bullet's ripping through his chest, he's like blink, and like he's out of his body, kind of thing.
Oh, so he used the cube to go into Lucan's body?
Yes. Yeah.
Did he know who Lucan was?
Yeah,
he did because they met in issue 1.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Basically, he'd seen Winter Soldier, and he knew Lucan had all these plans, and like Captain America adjacent, he was like, that's the thing, that's the one. Like, if I'm gonna jump before I die, like that's the one.
I thought it was a
why not jump into Thor's body or something? I would take over.
I mean, the amount of dumb things that the Red Skull has done over the years when he could have done something else is astronomically high.
Yeah, but I would take over the Hulk or Thor or something. That's way more useful.
Yeah, no.
Well, the Cosmic Cube didn't even have enough energy to let him take over that guy's body completely. So I mean, clearly, I think he was
take over the Sentry. How easy would Sentry be to take over? Dude's already insane.
That's a very good point. That's a very
I think the Cosmic Cube is kind of like a monkey's paw, right? Like, you get your wish, but there's a consequence to it, which I enjoyed. That aspect of it. But going back to the Red Skull, and is it Lucan? Lucan says, no, I've learned something you never could, that nothing you wish for with that thing goes well. That cube is cursed. Look what it's done to me after all, putting a creature like you inside my mind. Yeah, it was a conscious choice by Red Skull, because Red Skull said, and if it had more power that night, I'd be the only one here. You got lucky.
Yeah, you got lucky.
Yeah.
So
no, I mean, Red Skull wanted it to happen. My only question is, I just wasn't sure if maybe it was from the beginning his plan was to.
I don't know. I don't think it was his. I don't think it was his plan. His plan was to fucking blow bombs up and recharge the cube and start fucking with Captain America. His plan was not to like use the weakened cube to jump into some other dude's body.
Why was the Red Skull in like the first issue? Red Skull puts on the fake mask and he's like spying on Captain America.
Yeah,
and
dude, he's like, crazy.
He's just got a big. He's got a big crush. He's got a big crush on Captain America.
Crazy man.
Kind of,
he does. He really does.
I have a Bucky question. In comic continuity, does Bucky have super soldier serum?
Not at this point, but later in a later storyline, he gets the Infinity Formula, which is like a watered down version of the super soldier serum.
Doesn't he? That's when he's Cap, right?
When he's Cap.
Yeah, I'm not. It happens in the Fear Itself storyline, which I've read twice, and I don't really remember much of anything about it. If that tells you.
So
anything.
in the MCU, for instance, like he does have super soldier serum.
In the MCU, he does
version,
have,
and it's less powerful or whatever.
Yes.
But like when they bring him back in the MCU, he definitely is. I mean, the whole story arc in Civil War is them chasing down the other dudes that were like derivatives of him, kind of thing.
But he has in the MCU, he has the red tornado or whatever that David Harbour's character's serum. They have the same Russian serum. Is it red tornado or red volcano or
something? Red
Crimson
we
Dynamo?
Should know this because he's in the first issue.
Iron Man.
It's not Crimson Dynamo. It's red tornado. He's in the beginning of this comic.
Yeah, we should know this. Let's see.
Just keep reaching. I'm
Red Guardian. Okay,
that's not right.
So, but in the MCU, Red Guardian and Winter Soldier have the same Russian serum, right?
Yeah, but I think, yes,
maybe, yes.
The answer is yes.
Okay. But we'll talk about the Infinity Formula because Nick Fury also has the Infinity Formula or serum. Wasn't this Nick Fury like the most basic? Like I'm used to Nick Fury being like 10 steps ahead, and I feel like this Fury
man was not.
Like
he was 8 steps behind.
Yeah, he was just kind of like a basic watered down boss, being like
100%. Also, I don't understand their working relationship. Like in the Ultimates, Cap is a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like he is an agent of the government and he works for Nick Fury. This is like superhero Cap exists, but also S.H.I.E.L.D. exists. And they're intertwined, but he doesn't really answer to them. And he just kind of does his own fucking thing. And they're constantly kind of going like, all right, well, that's just Cap, kind of thing. And I'm like, rein this fucker in. He's just running around.
I think at this time, Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. are sort of separate thing. And maybe S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't really have jurisdiction. Well, at this point,
the Avengers...
Well, that's the main thing. So when they go and fight they assault that corporate, is it Kronos? What is it called?
Kronos. No, it's Kronas, right? It's Kronas.
Listen, it's a circle K with a flame on it, and it's a giant icon on this outside of their corporate.
Yeah, and that's not like
wherever it is, and I'm like, you can't tell that that's an evil.
That's an
evil corporation. At any rate, they go and fight this. They go assault this guy's corporate holdings like headquarters in like I don't even remember where they said it was, but it's between countries. It was very vague. Anyway, but it's a total failure because as a corporate entity, he is currently working with the United States, and he literally has the United States like the Secretary of State's there, maybe, or I don't remember who it is.
Yeah.
But basically the mission fails, and while they're on the way there, Nick Fury, to the point of Nick Fury, is like, this is totally unsanctioned. We didn't get a green light for this mission. I'm like, how the fuck are you allowed to do this? Like, it makes no sense. And also Captain America's like involvement in it makes no sense. And he's flying off the handle the whole time they're there. And Nick Fury is like yelling at him to like hold back. And then at the same time going like, hey, Cap, take these dudes out. You're like, what the fuck is this working relationship?
It doesn't make
no goddamn sense. They're all over the place.
Depending on the scene, one is in charge of the other. Maybe they just switch dom and sub relationship, like basically minute by minute.
It's very odd. It's very
maybe
odd.
It's their kink. They just switch that around minute by minute.
I guess the cube. I guess he did. I was gonna say, how did Nick Fury not know like the chief of staff to the vice president was going to be?
That's what I'm gonna. Well, because it wasn't greenlit, so like he even says like I didn't even. It's not that he got turned down to do the mission. He didn't even put the mission in. Like he didn't propose the mission because he knew it would get turned down. So
yeah, but it seems like it was the cube. I guess the guy specifically used the cube to make Fury do that. Is what
I don't know. Fury also just
I don't think he
generally doesn't seem competent though. He generally does not seem competent.
Because after they botched that, is his name Lucan's assistant or whatever says, "What was the point of that?" And he said, "You could have cost us everything." And he said, I should make that more than just it sounds like he used the cube to, but I guess the cosmic cube is sentient and it does its own thing. Like that's how it teleported the Bucky file from the bad guy to Captain America.
Well, we don't know if it's sentient. I mean, I don't know. It's like
I think it's it is
sentient, but
it's
also
it's
Lucan's.
Yes, it's the cosmic
relationship with that dude is weird.
Sentient energy. I like their little friendship. After he beats him to almost death, he almost beats him to death.
No, it's really weird.
They're friends, and the guy's looking out for him, and the cube is taken over. And when he
said, "You could have cost us everything," and he said, "You're becoming more like a woman every day, Leon. Should I make that more than just a similarity of temperaments? Like threatening him with the cube to turning him into a woman?" And I'm like, "Are you guys just?"
Well, so going back,
What's going on?
Back to our Bechdel test, there's a lot of line. There's one part where Falcon and Captain America are talking about Sharon, and Captain America literally says like she should smile more. Like there's a lot of
what?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really kind of misogynist language.
He really does.
Run that is not.
Also, they had like the one time like Sharon gets the night off or whatever because they're in France after really early on. And I don't remember what it is, but Sharon's basically like, "Oh, Nick gave me the night off. Let's hang out." And he's basically like, "I wish I could be better company," because he's all melodramatic and having weird flashbacks and mopey about it. And then Sharon's like, "I guess you've been here before." And he's like, "Yeah. It was 1944." Like just immediately goes into like war memories, and I'm like, man, like you're not a good date.
He's not. But really again, bad. Sharon isn't there to be a meaningful character. She's just there to look attractive and
she's there to bring up France so he can think about the war.
Yeah.
The Cronus Corporation's
like that.
Yeah. The Cronus Corporation's logo is fucking atrocious. That's the worst logo.
It's atrocious, but two, it's so clearly evil. It's like having like a corporation just being like, "Listen, I know we're called Walmart, but I was thinking our logo would be like a skull with a swastika behind it. What do you think?" You know, like kind of like it's just like, what are you trying to do? Hide it a little.
Like imagine if Kmart's logo was a K on fire.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's right. Like they really need to rebrand as.
What was the deal? And I liked it, but I wasn't sure what was happening. But there's a flashback, and it's a bunch of American soldiers that Bucky and Cap think have been released, but they're like zombies.
Yeah, that was so. If you've ever seen the movie A Bridge Too Far. It's about Operation Market Garden. It's a famous British airborne mission in the World War II theater. And basically, what it is like they were fighting over the river.
Sorry, Joe. What theater was the World War II theater? You mean all
European
of it?
Theater. The European.
All of it.
Not the Pacific. In the European theater. Okay. It was in France. I think it was in France, but like it's the Rhine River, right? So it's France.
No, I know. You said the World War II theater, which is a funny way to phrase it because that's just the whole thing.
Theater.
You said the World War II theater, which is the whole thing. It's a large theater.
This is recorded, so we can go back and.
I'm fine with going back, but go ahead. All right, go ahead with A Bridge Too Far. Go ahead with A Bridge Too Far.
A Bridge Too Far. I mean, it's a great one. It's a great war movie, and I love it. But it's about Operation Market Garden. Basically, they drop in and they extend too far. Long story short, and they basically can't get across these bridges, and it's a pivotal moment in World War II. But so I guess they had sent troops across Patty, and the Red Skull and or the Nazis had like turned them into zombies and sent them back across with bombs. I'm not sure. It was a weird one.
Cap decapitates one of them. With
he does. Shield. He just chops. He chops one of their heads off. I can't find the photos of that. Where is that one?
Well, Cap, it is just weird because I know all of us are kind of maybe not all of us. I'm more of a DC guy generally than a Marvel guy.
Fair, yeah. So am I.
But it's just so my touchstone heroes are Batman, Superman, all that. Reading Marvel stuff where Captain America just murders people is jarring. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Even stuff like this comic is pretty gritty and spy thriller-esque, but it's just weird to see like a mainstream hero like kill dudes. And you're just
weird.
Like, oh, right.
It's weird in Marvel because they will kill like henchmen, but they won't kill the main villain for whatever reason. Like,
yeah.
Why aren't all
like in the very first issue, Sharon's like, "What's going on?" And she's kind of talking to him about like what he's been going through because the last mission he was on was he was just like he killed 2 guys like off the train, like he just like knocked them off the train, like a moving subway train or not subway.
He killed
elevated train.
He killed 2 guys, knocking them off the train, and one of their bodies hit a minivan and injured people in the minivan. And I'm assuming that's like a soccer mom and kids. Like what?
Obviously, it's got to be. Yeah.
This is New York. This is a densely populated, settlement. I mean,
I guess that's my thing with like why is the Red Skull been walking around? And I get it's comics and villains can come back to life all the time, but it's like why don't you kill this fucking guy at the end of every single battle you have with him? Like what? Why in Marvel it's so.
It is wild. You're right. The jabronis, they mow down jabronis like it's nothing, but then the main guy, we can't touch Dr. Doom.
Can't touch him. Yeah. Well, you can't touch Dr. Doom. I mean, he'd be.
Well, that's a whole separate. I mean, you can't. Nobody can touch that. No, but all of that is just to say again, because my sensibility is more DC side, where heroes don't normally just kill anybody. It is weird reading a Marvel comic where they just again mow down enemy soldiers, and it's just like, all right.
I mean, in fairness, it was relatively recent, especially in this book, that Cap started killing people. And again, I feel like it was the Ultimates that kind of like brought that back around. Like,
yeah, maybe
Cap and Iron Man, they were all like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. They never killed people.
Yeah, Captain America never fucking killed people. Marvel heroes are also more, and again, I know the Ultimates is way more this, but they're more just kind of like directly engaged with government and military bodies than DC heroes. Justice League is kind of a separate body doing their own thing, but the Avengers seem way more, embedded is the wrong word, but like way more in bed with just sort of the straight up US government and military. Stuff like that.
In recent years, yeah. Again, I think the Ultimate
maybe it is
really,
just ultimate.
Really changed.
Yeah, maybe it is ultimate influence. Yeah.
The Marvel comics, but I mean, like Captain America never killed when I was a kid. Like that never happened.
Didn't he kill in World War II?
So
I can get that because it's a war.
No.
Well, maybe that's the thing too. Is I mean, the core basis of that character is I was once a soldier in a war.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm okay with it.
DC doesn't have Superman never fought in Vietnam or whatever, right? So
I think that's why I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me on that level because, like, to be a soldier is to kill. So, like, if you have to,
we could.
And then,
that's
and in war, but
that's
and in war
up to interpret. It depends on how you define a soldier.
Oh, well, sure. But in World War II, they were killing people.
Well,
so like Cap being from World War II, and then like that. So him doing that now, it seems like negligent.
It's jarring. It's just jarring. Yeah. It's
yeah,
shocking to see just the ease with which he murders people on a Brooklyn train.
Well, he murdered terrorists.
Terrorists. He actually, I think he makes that exact point of like Sheridan. They weren't people; they're terrorists.
Yeah.
Again, which like to prevent that tragedy from happening, if that's what you
No,
have to do.
I think that's a
do, but-
problematic philosophy for
to
a hero
have it
to have, yeah.
to have it the collateral damage of the minivan, kind of like, I feel like the fact that Cap was like,
that's the whole point, though. That's her going like, "Hey,
about-
what the fuck?" Like, you usually pay attention to what's happening and where people are. Even if you're killing somebody, you pay attention to where those bodies fall, and you don't hurt other people along the way. And he's like, "That helicopter landed in the river," and she's like, "That was chance," you know, and kind of thing. Like, I think that's kind of the impetus of that conversation. It's like he's ratcheted it up a little bit, you know, like where he's like a little more reckless than he normally is, or whatever's going on with him, kind of thing.
I'll bet anything Cap didn't plan that, and was just when the helicopter landed in the water, he was like, "Oh, good, that's gonna be okay." Ooh,
by the way, and this is such an aside from like our main conversation, but I really just want to talk about this for a second. But the issue where Falcon does show up at the end, Cap is running around and just stops, like, I guess a rape / murder going on in an
I didn't
alleyway.
Understand, right? Some kind of theft, rape, murder.
He just negligently tosses his shield down, doesn't stop at all to make sure she's okay, because he's so sure that he hit the dude and kept going. But it was just so weird. And I'm just like, that was such an odd scene to like.
Well, the other weird
jam
thing...
into this, like, I'm Cap and I'm thinking about stuff and I'm going to run around the city. Oh, there's a rape, ding, and whips his shield down. And then he's like, I got to keep running.
Well, Joe,
like, you don't stop for like 1 second to like make sure she's okay. You're so embroiled in your thoughts and like what's going on with your flashbacks and shit that you can't like pause for 2 seconds on the rooftop to be like, okay, she's safe. All right, cool.
But yeah,
you know, like kind of thing, like nothing.
We've gone through 15 issues where he has not given half a shit about what a woman thinks.
Yeah, but he did stop the rape. Al.
So another funny thing about this scene is when he meets up with Falcon, and you know, Falcon's like, I heard you need a friend, whatever. The next scene, they're just back at Cap's place chatting. So he was literally out for no reason.
No, he was running. He was just running to think shit through. He was just running through his thoughts. He was just
doing acrobatics.
He was doing a patrol of Brooklyn. Like,
it's very Nightwing-esque to just do acrobatics on rooftops.
Yeah, just hanging, just running around, rolling on a shield. You know, no big deal.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Bucky kind of steps up to Lucan, I guess, you know, like towards the end, where Lucan is like, I almost murdered my friend. This cube is fucking me up. Like, it's nothing but a curse. Like, it's time to get rid of this thing. And Bucky kind of goes like, we worked so hard to get this. Like, what the fuck is going on, kind of thing. And it's like, it's weird because it's him being like, what the fuck was the point of this mission? It's him questioning the mission, but it's also him kind of like being Bucky, which is interesting because in doing that, he's more of the villain than the hero, because the villain's like, let's get rid of this fucking thing. Like, I don't even want it anymore. And he's kind of going like, why did I kill all those people? You know, like, kind of thing. But at the same time, he's like, this was for nothing. And I just thought it was an interesting, like, I don't know, dynamic going on in Bucky, because he was like, I don't know, not going along with the mission at the same time, but him going along with the mission means that he's the bad guy. So it was like an interesting caveat. I don't know.
So my main reaction to this scene was, why the fuck is this the first scene that we actually get any interaction with Bucky? Is this weird?
Because that's the first time he's questioning what he's doing, I guess.
But it's such a weird way that this is the first introduction we get to Bucky, and where he has lines, and as a character is just this random scene of like, go take this cube.
He had lines. He said, "Who the hell is Bucky?" You know, like
okay. I just mean this was the first extended scene we have of him, and it's just this random convo of like, take this cube. I thought it was weird.
Was this 14 issues?
Weird choice.
Was it 12 issues?
It was like 13, because it was 14 minus the one that we.
It was such a weird choice that this is the first scene we get meaningful time with Bucky. It was weird.
No, I don't disagree.
And this is issue 11. Like, that's where I feel like this.
Well, you get meaningful scenes with him in the flashback issue, the file folder issue.
But I feel like the file folder issue, sure, but I just feel like it was kind of hollow. Like, I didn't feel the connection between Cap and Bucky, even in the flashbacks.
I feel the flashbacks. Cap's connection to Bucky. I don't feel anything from Bucky. You know what I mean?
I don't even know if I guess
the whole comic is about Cap's conflict with how his emotions are dealing
already
with Bucky's death.
The fact that he already started off this story arc pissed off. Like Cap is already pissed off because the Avengers are disassembled and he's killing people for no reason. And so he was already at that starting place, and then he finds out about Bucky. Like it's a plateau. Like it didn't go from happy-go-lucky Cap to upset, angry Cap. It just kind of
fair.
I just didn't.
It came out the gate with Cap's upset right away.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just felt like for that many issues, and maybe editorial had a lot to do with what Brubaker wanted to do and wasn't allowed to do, and how long you had to tease out whether it was Bucky or not. I just wish there was more of I didn't feel, and I think that's why, like, again, this is the MCU based their movie off of.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so much more nuance and character development within Bucky in even just in Winter Soldier, let alone the fact that he was already in the first Captain America movie as Bucky. But like in Winter Soldier, I mean, even in that, like you get more of like, he's a machine, he's here to do his job, but at the same time, you're like, you can tell he's conflicted. Well, I mean, like, so even in the end confrontation where they go to this like bunker thing or whatever the fuck, Bucky is like, the only reason he's going to shoot Cap and Falcon isn't because he's like, hey, these guys have been fucking with me this entire time. I need to get back at them. He doesn't give a shit. He's just like, the only reason he's going to shoot Cap and or Falcon is because they're getting near the cube. And that's his mission, to keep the cube away from anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. He's just like, well, if they come close to the cube, I'm going to fucking kill them. And like that's it. Like there's no like, you know, and I like that in a way. But it's also kind of empty of any kind of emotion on his end, you know, like, because he's just this robot assassin killing machine.
I have a question because you're comic nerds. Can Falcon talk to birds?
I guess.
Because he mentions that the birds told him that Bucky was there, and that's how he dodged the bullet. So he can talk to birds?
I thought it was just one bird, but I guess he can talk to all birds. I don't know. Like,
I'm going to be, this is the honest answer, Al. I don't know.
I'm going to Wikipedia. I'm going to Wikipedia his
I'm
powers.
Not super deep on Falcon. But I think he just talks to Redwing, and Redwing, the Falcon, talks to birds.
I'm going to Wikipedia.
I don't think he's like Aquaman and he can like talk to all birds.
That's what I thought. Like, I thought that's
I think he just talks to the one fucking bird, and then that bird tells him what's going on.
If he could do that, like, he never uses that power set at all. I'd be using that all the time.
Never.
Like, if you could just summon all the birds.
He uses it in this moment because Bucky's about to shoot one of them, and then suddenly he's like, I didn't fucking miss. And then Falcon's like, the birds told me. Like, I moved out of the way. I fucking loved it.
So he could link up with any bird.
Oh, wow.
That's nuts.
So originally,
there's two those powers. Is he a mutant?
No, there's two origin versions.
Why do you have balloons floating up?
I think because I made a hand thing. So version 1 is Professor X created a psychic link between him and Redwing.
Okay.
Version 2
there's strings attached with that, with Professor X.
Okay. Version 2 is that the Red Skull used a cosmic cube to create a link between Redwing and Sam Wilson.
Oh, interesting.
That also seems like there's strings attached.
And then Wilson, aka Sam Wilson Falcon, eventually revealed that he was able to extend the empathic link with Redwing to any other bird.
I see.
Wow. That's
so he can
huge.
talk. So he's Bird Aquaman. He can just talk to birds.
He is Bird Aquaman? That's crazy.
That's insane.
So he's just out there in the forest going whoop, 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 whoop,
yeah.
and they're going like, worms. I have eggs. And he's like, that's not important.
That's insane.
He's like, tell me where the assassin is. You know? Oh, I'm about to get shot. Flies out of the way.
Because I thought he was just a dude with a wingsuit. But then when I read this comic and he's like, the bird told me, the guy, I was like, what?
I mean, I knew he had like something going on with Red Wing, but I thought it was just a trained falcon. Like it was just a trained bird that like did, you know, I don't know. I really love in the MCU that they made Red Wing a drone and not an actual bird.
Yes, that was the only reason I knew.
Dumb.
About Red Wing. The other confusing thing to me during the flashbacks, were y'all really confused by the fact there were 2 Human Torches? Because I was like, wait a minute.
Oh no, that's old school World War II.
No, but there were always 2. Remember in Avengers?
Yeah, it's like Toro
and talk about.
There's 3 Human Torches then.
Yeah,
3 Human Torches.
Oh yeah,
that's fucking insane.
Total. Yeah,
that's nuts.
I knew Fantastic Four Human Torch has 0 connection to them.
But still, to have 3 Human Torches is like...
So there's the Human Torch, and then his sidekick was Toro, if I'm not mistaken. And
yes, Toro is... Yes. Well, Toro's in this. He features in
I think he's an android?
One of them was a mutant.
No, I'm not Toro, but I think Human Torch is an android.
Yes, he's an android.
Yeah.
And then
because that's the body that Vision took over later, right? According to Avengers Forever.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But I was like, I did not know that the original android Human Torch had a sidekick who had the same power set as him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just like flying around. It was him and Namor. It was the 2 of them and Namor and Cap and Bucky. They were like the original defenders.
Because a great way to design a sidekick, Pat, is to just have it be exactly the main hero
thing.
It's a good way to design a sidekick.
Unless you're Captain Marvel.
I hope you're not throwing shade at Kid Flash because he's the best.
Well, I mean, Patrick, how many Robins do we have? You know, if we got 3 we've got 19 Robins with 3 Human Torches.
Yeah, I guess we only have 4
Robins.
I was like, can Human Torch duplicate himself? Like, I didn't know if there were 2 robots that were made, but which would have made more sense. Yeah, I don't really
know anything about Toro.
Well, apparently he's best friends with Bucky, but
I do love in the end
Johnny Storm just through the negative zone got that same power.
Johnny Storm is just like, hey, let's revive this idea of a Human Torch, so we'll give this guy powers. I do love in the end fight when Sharon is like yelling at Cap to like, if he gets down into those tunnels, they go out into the countryside and we will never find him with the cube kind of thing. Cap's like running down into the tunnels to like kind of find Bucky to like try to stop him before he like thoroughly escapes. And I really just love that Bucky didn't leave. Like he's just like, no, fuck you. It just comes out of it was like basically my favorite moment of the entire book, basically. Just comes out of nowhere and just clocks Cap, and he's like, yeah, I'm not running away. I was just, leading you down here. Fuck
well,
you.
I loved Falcon in the last fight. I mean, he was maybe my favorite character.
He was great. Right. Falcon was great in this.
In the last fight, he just takes out like a bunch of jabronis, and then at the end, they're like, one of us getting away, and he's like, no, he won't. I'll get him. And then he just flies out and brings them back. He was just awesome in this run.
Yeah, I'm disappointed he didn't show up until like issue 10.
Yeah, he was a great team player.
Also, right after Bucky does come out, he's like, well, first of all, Cap's like, no, there's no going back now. I'll stop him. And he's like, no, you won't. And he just clocks him. And that's when he comes out like, I'm not running kind of thing. And I love the line, you're something else. I'll give you that. Because he genuinely doesn't remember Cap. It's not like he has conflicted memories like Bucky in the MCU did. He's just doesn't know who Cap is. To him, Cap is this guy that's like, wow, he's like really fucking tenacious. Like, to him, it's just like a real, like he's a nuisance to Bucky.
Patrick,
and I fucking love that. But there's this one moment where like, oh shit, sorry, Al, you go ahead. I'll figure out.
Well, I just wanted to say to a point Patrick made earlier, I think what would have made the Cap and Bucky fight more effective is if it wasn't like a split cut with other fights going on.
That's true. Yeah.
Because it's like Sharon and Falcon are doing their own thing as Cap and Bucky are fighting. And I think it would have been more effective if the other stuff had been resolved. And then it was just maybe like 3 pages of just the 2 of them going at it.
Fair.
In a more kind of climactic focused.
So the the point I was going to make.
I did love this frame of the fist hitting the shield.
Yeah, it was great, man.
Yeah,
that
was really awesome.
Them fighting was awesome, but at the same time, I understand that not having that emotional connection does make it lackluster. But for me, like reading this back again, I was just like, yay! You know, like I don't know. And reading it back in the day, issue by issue, this was a big culminating point to me. You know, so like maybe it has more gravitas and it weighs more on my memories. I don't know. But I love the moment when Bucky, when they're fighting, and basically he kind of feints with a knife, and he knows Cap's gonna block it basically, and he like goes to stab him with a knife, and Cap blocks it with the shield, and the knife snaps, and Bucky just smashes him across the face with his robot arm, and he's like, "Shit, you're still here? That punch, that punch would have put you down for good," you know, kind of thing. And like Cap's like recognition that basically Bucky was literally trying to murder him at that moment was awesome to me. You know, like I love that, like the realization that like one, I want to say, because obviously through the Cap Sharon and the Cap Falcon conversations, we've figured out that Cap's like at the end of the day, he's just trying to save Bucky somehow. He doesn't know how he's going to do it. He doesn't know what's going to entail. But that was like an eye-opening moment for him where he's like, fuck, he literally just tried to murder me. Like there's meaning like maybe Sharon's right and like there's nothing left of him in there, you know, like kind of thing. And I just love that one little nuanced piece of that fight.
Well, because he says tried to kill me, but it's like ellipses, and it's implies that he says it to himself, like he's not saying it to Bucky. He's like, this guy just tried to fucking kill me.
Yeah, and like I said, Bucky 5 seconds beforehand is like, you're still here? That punch should have put you down for good. And I'm like,
luckily he has a miracle cube that can do anything, and he can
a miracle cube. You know, so again, MCU versus this book, more nuanced. Bucky has kind of like scrambled brains and memories of Cap and kind of knows what he's doing is wrong on some level. He's fighting against his programming. This is more like, this is a goddamn machine. He has no memories at all until Cap picks up a magic cube and goes, remember who you are, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's very mainstream comic to come up with like an over convoluted, weird, magical answer to what could just be a plot point. But
I mean, the cosmic cube and Red Skull and Cap has been such a thing for so long. I know
it's a core.
Yeah, it's
structural.
It's ingrained in their goddamn storylines. Like, I do love the idea that the cube was like underpowered and barely holding itself together, and like needing a bomb or multiple deaths of like a mass death scenario on some sort of like level that would somehow power the cube back up was really fun idea. But at the end of the day, it is just a magic fucking box. You know what I mean? And you're just like, ugh. Like I love it, but I also was like, that's kind of stupid.
Go ahead, Patrick. I was just going to make one final criticism, but go ahead.
Just back issue 14's the last issue about Cap's shield. So Bucky's got Cap in his sights. Cap throws his shield at Bucky. It hits him in the leg, flies off of Bucky over the bunker. The next time we see it, Cap is throwing it again. So somehow he got it back. And then he's throwing it again, and it's like going over the plane. And then the next panel is back in his fucking hands. I just didn't. Art-wise, I was like, where? How? What's happening?
The same way that Falcon can talk to birds, Cap can talk to shields.
I think they're just
telepathic links. He can control shields.
I mean, it kind of goes back to here's a real answer, by the way. It kind of goes back to what Alessandro was saying earlier with like the way Epting is doing the action scenes. They're kind of like snapshots, or it's like a photographic like frame versus like showing motion. And with the speed with which these action scenes are taking place, it seems to me like Epting is just like cutting. He's just making edits. Like he's cutting the scene where the shield bounces and comes back to him. He's just like, when Cap throws it, he might have a panel of him catching it, but there's no like bounce in between. You know what I mean?
There's no panel of him catching it. There's not even a panel of him catching it. It's just backing it.
Oh no, Patrick! I think you're misreading.
Panel.
Patrick, you're misreading the moments earlier part here.
What?
Moments earlier, that's him throwing the shield. That is this shield. Moments earlier, it's a flashback to him throwing. It's not
moments earlier, but then it doesn't cut back to present day. I don't.
No, it catches back up to current time. So here's one that I think
when
makes
it doesn't.
Sense.
There's not another. There's not another little subtitle that says current time. It just says moments earlier.
Jesus, I'm horrible at this camera.
We need Christopher Nolan to unravel the timelines of this.
All right, so he's throwing the shield here, and then he's catching it in the one beneath. But it looks, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just cutting away from the fact that he's rebounding the shield. I think.
I just don't. Where is it? I don't. Yeah. I don't know. I just remember reading that last issue.
There's one panel where he's full on throwing it, and then there's the very next panel is his arm is backwards and kind of like he had caught the shield, as in he threw it and it bounced back and it came back and he's catching it. Like that's how fast everything's happening, I guess is what I'm saying.
And then also on the next panel, it looks like he's literally palming the top of the shield as if it's like a basketball.
Yeah, that was weird. That was a weird panel. I was just
Patrick, the shield journey makes sense. So let's look at here. So
the shield journey.
Let's go into the journey.
No, but Patrick,
this journey with the shield.
So this shield here, Patrick, is this.
No, I don't. He doesn't have a problem with that.
Look, it's this shield.
Yeah,
and that's him grabbing it.
I'm sorry, he throws it. Wait.
All right, we're cutting all of this.
No, we're not. It hits Bucky in the fucking leg,
and then it bounces up. It bounces up near this jet.
It doesn't hit him in the leg, Patty.
And then First of all, it hits the jet.
It hits the gun and breaks the gun. It's already bouncing back. What you see is him falling backwards and the shield rebounding towards Captain America.
Near the jet. Still.
Why is it above? It's above Bucky's head then after that, though. After it breaks the gun.
That's it rebounding. He rolled off and it's jumping down and it's rebounding backwards towards Cap at that point.
No, it's going behind Bucky and Cap is in front of Bucky. It makes no sense.
Look at the speed lines. It's moving forward towards
There's no speed lines, but there is a slight blur.
The blur. Look at the blur lines. God. The blur lines are moving forward towards the jet, which is this jet we later see where the shield is just in the air. And then
listen, I guess so. All I'm saying is it shouldn't have taken a 5-minute conversation to figure this out.
It shouldn't have, but it didn't take us to figure that out. Like it's just you that's having a problem.
This is, by the way, is a segment that people listening to the podcast are going to love because it's very much an audio.
I know. Hey, you can watch this podcast on YouTube if you want to, and you know all about the pages and panels we're holding up.
Yeah, we're talking about the beginning of issue 14 and the Shield's journey through time.
And the Shield's journey. Yeah.
In that, yeah. So one last criticism I wanted to make. Only one split kick in this whole 14-issue run.
Very stagnant split kick as well. It wasn't Epting that did it, but it was
in the Ultimates.
It was Lark, yeah.
But in the Ultimates, we got 5 split kicks per issue, basically. That was Captain America's go-to move.
Yeah.
And we only got one here. Only one kicking 2 dudes at once through the air. So that's my criticism. Are we done? Anything else?
No, I had one little last note. Bucky crushing the cube. I said one little last note. No, what's wrong? Yeah.
No, let's talk about the cube.
Bucky crushing the cube. Did you even for an instant think that he would be dead at that scene?
No, of course not.
Okay.
Well, I also knew that Winter Soldier is a character.
Oh, fair. It also isn't revealed until the very end of this story arc that it's been Red Skull in Lucan's mind the entire time. Lucan's been talking to himself for this entire run, like not saying that it's Red Skull he's talking to. So it's revealed at the very end of this that Red Skull is like, "Hey, I'm in your mind." You know.
Who did you think it was, by the way? Because I honestly didn't predict that it would end up being Red Skull.
I just thought he was crazy and was talking.
I knew it was Red Skull the entire time.
I just thought it was the cube, being the cube and manipulating him, but I didn't know that. Yeah, it was actually Red Skull.
No, I knew it was. Yeah, just based on what was going on with Cap and the fact that in issue 1 they kind of do the Red Skull sees Winter Soldier. We didn't just talk about this, but Red Skull sees Winter Soldier in a tube, and he's like, "Holy shit, is that Winter Soldier? Or is that Bucky?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, don't worry about that." And it's kind of like a throwaway thing. And already, Red Skull's like, plans, kind of thing.
In the original draft,
just having read too many Captain America comics, I guess.
No, but in the original draft, it wasn't Red Skull the whole time. He was actually talking to Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan Experience.
I knew it, bro. Joe was
the original twist. Yeah, it was all bro Joe.
I love that they brought Bucky back in this very serious way. At least grounded in reality as much as you can in comic books at the time. Yeah, you've got the magic cube, but that's not why he survived. That's just how he got his memories back kind of thing. And I sort of love that whole Bucky survived. The Russians found him. They've been using him as assassin for decades. They've been freezing him in between because he's resistant and keeps falling back into I'm an American. They took this dumb fucking idea of bringing Bucky back and made it a very grounded and real story, even though it's silly comics. But one of the main things I really loved about it is the idea of what Bucky was doing or what his use was in World War II. So they they bringing that into some semblance of reality of why the fuck would Captain America be having this kid running around with him in World War II? They made it make sense. I loved that aspect of it. There's a lot of bits of this that it's easy to take for granted, knowing the MCU and stuff that's come later and how integral Winter Soldier, and he even becomes Captain America later in comics, and everything that's come since. And not having read this back in the day, I can understand you kind of going looking at the story arc and kind of going it's all right. But having read it as it came out made this so good, and I think that's why I love this so much. But I'm kind of tainted, not with nostalgia, but with I got to read it firsthand, as it happened, that definitely has colored my opinion on this. The art is okay, and I don't love it, but I don't dislike it either. But the writing, like I said, they brought nuance to why the fuck Bucky even existed in the first place. They brought nuance to why Bucky came back, or why is it he's even still alive, being X amount of years since World War II. Making him this crazy Russian assassin, it was awesome. The magic cube thing is a little silly. I've never liked the cosmic cube, but Red Skull living in somebody's mind is also a little silly, but it's also based on the cosmic cube, so it's I don't know. There's things to not like, and there's things to like about this, but for me, this book is awesome, and I like it a lot.
Yeah. Another thing we didn't mention. So Bucky's arm has a little wire and an external battery.
Yeah, it's got a cord. Yeah,
it's the Apple Vision Pros.
I hate the cord.
Yeah, but it's
they got rid of that really fast, almost immediately after this. He doesn't have that.
I think that was a good choice. That was
a good choice. Yeah,
he's got this little wire there.
Yeah.
Yeah, my overall take. Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun.
So, for me, it's a recommend. This is a great Cap book.
I definitely recommend. Any friend who maybe comes to me and says Alessandro, I finished all the Jack Reacher books. What should I do? I would say
read Captain America.
If you want more Jack Reacher energy. No, I thought this was a lot of fun. Again, I'm a little bit biased towards this kind of nostalgic 90s spy thriller genre. But I just thought it was fun. And yeah, it has pacing issues. The art isn't maybe the best. There's definitely no strong character in this who isn't like a white man. So don't read it for that. But I thought it was enjoyable.
I don't know. Falcon's pretty strong character.
I take that back. Falcon is not white, and he was my favorite character. So that, to your point, Falcon was awesome.
Great,
and he's not
but he's also barely in it.
He's barely in it, right? Let me rephrase it. Well, there's definitely no non-male characters who have any real development going on. So don't read it for that. But for a early 2000s kind of grounded spy thriller superhero romp, this was great. I mean, this is just peak Brubaker. I loved it.
My recommendation, I don't recommend it.
Okay.
And I going back, this is my
Patrick's
first time
recommendation is watch Winter Soldier the movie.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, watch Winter Soldier the movie.
That's a fair assessment.
And I just again, I feel like 13 issues and to only have Cap and Bucky interact for like 7 pages was a waste. I felt like every interaction, every scene with Cap and Sharon and Cap and Nick Fury, like waste of time. You're wasting my time with this. I just didn't enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy this that much. And again, to Joe's point, it establishes the Winter Soldier. It establishes the idea that he's kept frozen until they meet him, and the brainwashing. Those are all great ideas, and I give credit to Brubaker for setting the foundation for what is, in my opinion, the best MCU movie that's been made so far. But I think at this point in time, there are so many other comics I would recommend.
It's aged out. You've aged out of the story. Well, it's aged itself.
There's just, again, 13 issues. There could have been a lot more done with it. I just watch the movie. Watch the movie. Natasha is way better than Sharon. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I do not recommend reading 13 issues of this.
See, that's the point. I kind of disagree. I thought Natasha and Steve's relationship was too chaste in the movie. Like, I like that this one had a little bit of like they kind of want to fuck, or they used to. Or
they
need a little bit.
I don't know. Like Al, you mentioned that earlier, and I don't know if I felt that as much as you did. Like, to me, like Sharon was just like.
She was. I mean, she was not the
best. Boyfriend broke up with me because I'm now dealing with you, and you're my ex-boyfriend, and that was kind of it. Like, there was no like.
True. That's true. There wasn't. Yeah. No. That's true. She wasn't.
Sharon just didn't. She didn't. Sharon didn't seem to give a shit about Cap.
I mean, she said it, but it was said on like paper. You know, like there was no emotion behind it. Yeah.
There's nothing. And
there's
I
not
felt
a
like
lot of nuanced emotion in this writing, but that doesn't mean I don't like it for what it's done. You know,
my favorite. She was involved though. My favorite scene in this whole run was she rolls up in a car, pissed off at Steve, yelling at him, and his reaction is just, "Oh, hey Sharon.
Oh, hey Sharon. Hey Sharon."
She comes out saying, like, "You son of a bitch!"
Why she's there?
Yeah, and she comes out like, "You son of a bitch! You did this and that." And he goes, "Oh, hey, Sharon."
Yeah.
I don't have anything else.
All right, well, that's a 1-2 Al and me and Al and a no on Patty. It's a 2 out of 3.
Is that almost a first? Is that a first?
I think it's the first combo.
It might be the first time that me and Alessandro have aligned on something.
Interesting.
All right, that's been Mobius Couch for this week. I think we won comics. You know,
we won it.
We won it.